4-foot wide band. And you don't want to spray up too high. Usually we're mixing it with Liberty, Interline, and if you get too much burns of those green canes, then you'll have stem blight later. So try to keep it on the lower 4 inches of the plant. 2 inches in the center for overlap. Plant wraps are increasing in popularity. A couple of kinds around. We have the ones like the milk cartons. Use a pointer here. Milk cartons like this, or these plastic ones. They're about 80 cents with fiberglass. But that allows you to spray plants without getting any herbicide on the base when they're young. It also shapes them up for machine harvesting. So our standard program in the past, and still standard program, has been Chateau at 6 ounces per treated acre. And then we put with it 1% Interline. Now there's something that's kind of special about that. That's only 32 ounces of Interline with ammonium glufosinate. If we get much higher than that, we tend to get a lot more cane burn that leads to stem blight later. The PHI is 7 days on the Interline, the Chateau or Valor, 14 days on the Interline. I have the costs embedded in here too for you to look at. The thing about Chateau, you can put it out now before bloom. You can put it out after bloom. Don't spray it during bloom because sometimes it wafts up and burns the underside of the flowers. But it's been a great material out of our standard program. Young plants, newly set plants, we typically put out Simazine at 1 quart per acre. You can use Fusilade, of course, for weed control, get it on the foliage, not a problem. And then if you have a real serious weed problem, you might add in Gallery, but it's really expensive, $125 an acre. Usually plants in the second leaf, you can go with Simazine at 2 quarts, plus Dual for grasses is a good mix. And then we have some interesting short PHI materials. So it is possible, let's say, instead of spraying Chateau now, you could put out Simazine at this time, Simazine and Dual, and then you can wait as late as just before harvest and put out Zeus. So Zeus is newer material, Alterity is another name for it. It's very good on sedges. It'll take out most of your sedges if you use it, but in the same class, mode of action as Chateau, so you got to be careful not to use them back to back. But you can also use it on plants that are relatively small as 2 feet has been safe. So the Zeus is an option. You could do, in other words, Simazine Surfland, Simazine Dual now, and then come in right before harvest, even during harvest potentially, with the Zeus. With that Zeus, you can. This would be like a March application probably. You can use AIM at 2 ounces per acre. Is a pretty good broadleaf herbicide, pretty inexpensive, mixed with surfactant, and then throw in Fusilade, which can be used for grasses. And it all has that's a 1-day PHI material. If you look at the spray guide, it says 15 days. That's not correct. It's actually a 1-day material. So that's your potential you could use right before harvest. Other materials to consider, pre-emerge herbicides, Allion, very, very good herbicide, very expensive, but long-lasting, not cleared for use on sands. So you don't want to use it on sand soils, you want to use it on loamy sands. It's mostly loamy sands in this area, or on sandy clay loams, but you'll get some really good long-lasting activity out of Allion. Solicam's been around a long time. It's a good material as long as you're careful about the application. And of course, Carmex is a low-cost material. You can use it around the plants if you have a sandy clay loam or something like that, but usually we confine its use to the alleys. Very inexpensive material mixed with paraquat in the alleys. It's only $10, $13 an acre per treated acre for Carmex, but be careful about putting it on the roots of the blueberries, but in the alleys, if you want to have clean culture or moonscape, that's a good choice. You can mix it with paraquat or Roundup, Interline. And then a little bit about when do you need to spray next? If you spray now or in March, you need to come back right after harvest. If you use Chateau in the spring, you could rotate to Simazine and Dual or Solicam or Allion. Or then in early August is another time you need to treat. If you have a lot of weed pressure, you could use Zeus or one of these materials mentioned above. You just don't want to do the Chateau and the Zeus back to back because the same mode of action. Talked to Danny Staniland, consults on a lot of acres in this area. What he likes to do on farms he recommends is on mature plants, he actually does in year 1, he'll do Chateau, year 2, Allion, year 3, Simazine and Dual this time of year, and then rotate. So he's only using Allion basically about every 3rd year. It's one that's very good weed control, rather expensive, but a little on the hot side, but gives you some superior weed control. A little bit about anthracnose, because it can really eat your lunch in Georgia. And the more we do all this machine harvesting, fruit's hanging longer, more fruit left on the bush, we're having more and more anthracnose problems, especially on varieties like Farthing. So through the years, the program's kind of evolved. The way this anthracnose gets started is it comes out of the twigs and out of the leaves. It causes a leaf burn or a fungal spot on the edge of the margin of the leaf. And from that, the spores emerge. They move into the flowers in just a few weeks. On the southern high bush, they'll be getting in the flowers, and they sit there. It's what's called a latent infection. And then they sit there early summer. As you get into the summer and the fruit starts to ripening, it begins to rot the fruit. And from there, it goes from fruit to fruit. And spreads very, very rapidly. And it's a sticky yellow spore. It can stick onto picking buckets and so forth, so sanitation is important. But a really bad fruit rot disease in blueberries. So I used to recommend Sulfurex, lime sulfur, has been the standard program as far as cleaning up surfaces of the plants. We've gone to Sulfurex at 2 gallons. That's a good delayed dormant spray if you can fit it in. And then I used to recommend at 10% bloom, Captan tilled, and then a switch or Moravis, so forth, lower cost sprays. But last year I was over at Alan Etheridge's place over in southwest Georgia in Abigail Plantation and walked through all those hundreds of acres, and there was no anthracnose. So I talked to Alan afterwards. I said, Alan, there's no anthracnose on these farms that you're managing. What's going on? I've just never been on a farm without anthracnose. He said, well, we're doing this and this. We're following Oliver's program and doing some other things. But, okay, so this is his program with Dr. Oliver's suggestion, too, on a few things. But basically, spend a little bit more money if you have a problem variety like Farthing, for instance. And 10% bloom, put out Moravis, or maybe Indar plus Captan would be fine, but probably Moravis plus Captan. And then 50% bloom, Moravis plus Captan. And then 80% bloom, you got several options. A new option is Omega. It's a 50-day PHI, but it's in a class that we've never used before, so we shouldn't have any resistance, which is a huge problem with anthracnose, with the strobilurins and so forth on some farms. So you might consider using this Omega. It's about $54, or maybe the Quash Captan again. There's never been resistance to Captan. It's been around since 1956, and it's fair on a lot of fungi, and combined with things like Moravis, which is about the same as Chateau, highly effective against anthracnose. So full bloom, petal fall, Omega would be my choice. The green fruit stage, go to Quash Captan or Bound Captan. Bound's a little less expensive. And then go back to Switch or Moravis, the fluoxanil, whenever you get into the beginning of harvest. You can mix that with your SWD sprays like Imidan, Malathion, and so forth. And then probably at early harvest, go back to the Moravis or Switch. Usually we leave out the Captan here because of the visible residue problem with Captan. But I think if you try this program, you'll like it. Maybe even totally eliminate anthracnose from your farm. based on what I've seen over on these other places in southwest Georgia. Are there any questions at this time? Well, thank you very much. And thank you. Yes, sir.
How do our growers get this program from you?
Oh, I can leave the jump drive with CIMX. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So you could send it out to anybody who wants it. Thank you very much.